Okay, hello. I'm Jason Hyde with D Magazine and the Front Row Dallas Arts blog here at the Dallas International Film Festival on the D Front Row stage. Sitting here with Wes Cunningham, who is the star and co-writer of and inspiration for Cerona. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've read that. Basically, let's talk about what Cerona is about. It's about a musician in LA who basically gets tired of the LA scene, or gets this, his big break's not happening there, and decides to move back to, or to move to Texas, a small town in Texas. And I've read that it's inspired by your songs. So what does that mean to be inspired by your songs?
Well, it's basically, let's see, I write, I have a whole catalog of music that I've written, and can you hear okay? Basically, a couple of friends of mine, we thought it would be fun to try to make a movie based on this music that I had, that already existed about my experience, and I tend to write sort of autobiographically anyway.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we started off with, I think, like 40 songs, and I remember we had like 20 songs. I just made a CD of 20 songs that were sort of conflict, and then 20 songs that were resolution. And then from there, we built a story using the song. So in a sense, we started with the soundtrack before we even...
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So all the songs that appear in the movie are songs that were already in your catalog and you all just drew upon?
Yeah,
okay.
That's it, yeah.
So does that mean that Thomas, the main character in the movie, is you?
No, there's some differences, but there's also some similarities, and just by the nature of my story.
Yeah, because you were out in L.A.
Yeah.
And you moved back to Texas, and you're in Waco now. Is that
yes,
right?
I'm a proud Wacoan. Right
So Tom, in the movie, Thomas does that because he wants to get back to a real place.
Yeah, we call Waco is a synonym for Cerona. Cerona is the name of the movie, and so yeah, my story's a little divergent from the story of the movie, but in the movie, the character Thomas, who I play, who I had to audition for, thanks, Brandon, which was an awkward experience, but
sure.
Yeah, I think it's more of a thing where he says, "Well, forget L.A., forget music," But I think the reality is L.A. and music never really noticed him anyway. So, so I think it was a little bit of self-preservation for him to take his wife and to move back to Texas and to try to live a real life, whatever that is.
Yeah. What does that mean? I mean, I wanted to ask is, do you agree with Thomas that Texas is a more real place than L.A.?
Well, I think pursuing entertainment as a career is a surreal sort of endeavor. And so I think what we were trying to say was he wanted to get out of that world where it's all about self-promotion.
Okay.
And wanted to get into a situation where he was, it wasn't about him.
Okay.
And so he put himself in that environment, but it was still about him. I think what we were trying to do with the movie is he couldn't, he was still self-centered, which I can relate to. So, yeah.
Okay. So all these songs that you started with, 40 songs, and then how many made it into the movie, actually?
I believe there's 8 or 9 that are in the movie.
Did you write anything specifically for the movie? Or
no, I didn't. Well, I take that back. After we had shot the movie, I was able to do some of the score. So at that point, that was a really fun experience because I was able to sort of fill in the gaps with some music and experiment with enhancing the drama with music, which was a really cool experience, and I hope to do that again. But
yeah. And you mentioned that you had to audition for the part.
Yeah.
But so this is your first acting experience on film?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So what was that experience like? I mean,
it's absolutely thrilling. It was just. I think what I think initially it was pretty awkward,
Hmm.
but it's a lot. I found it to be a lot like performing music,
Hmm.
in the sense that when you're saying a line or when you're in the middle of a scene, you're having to be present and you're having to mean what you say, um, so it flows really well actually with performing music, because all you have to do is believe in what you're saying,
Yeah.
and it's easy to do when you write the songs.
Yeah.
And it's also easy to do when you sort of helped write the movie or write the character.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was fairly painless.
Yeah.
But the director Brandon might disagree a little bit. I don't know. I think there was some smoke and mirrors in the editing room. I tended to slip into the Texas draw, and so in the movie I'm supposed to be from California, so
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because you have Texas roots.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned to me that you graduated from Highland Park High School here
God,
in
I
Dallas.
hoped you wouldn't say that. Yeah.
So what's it like coming back to Dallas?
I feel like a hick, honestly. I mean, I've lived in Waco for a long time. Not that Waco's a hick town, by any means. Dallas is Dallas, so
Yeah.
and I mean it's fun. I don't know what to say.
Talk about the experience of filming in Waco. I mean, did you guys know you wanted to make it in Waco as
Yeah.
you were writing the script?
Yeah, glad you. It was a fun experience because while we were writing the story, the director Brandon Dickerson and Thomas Ward, all three of us wrote the movie. We all lived in Waco together, and so Brandon especially would be out. We'd be sitting at Common Grounds. We'd be like, this would be great if we just did it right here. And so it turned out a lot of. It all happened together cohesively because we were writing at the same town we were living. So it was pretty fun, and Waco was so generous and wonderful, and it's a great city to live in, and there's a lot of neat things about Waco that people don't normally associate with Waco, and so
Yeah.
it was kind of fun to bring those out as well. And
I have to say, Waco has never looked more attractive to me than in this movie. Although my experience is probably limited to driving by.
Well,
on the
yeah,
highway.
if you don't get off 35,
Yeah.
you're. There's a lot of charm, a lot of neat spots in Waco.
Some of my favorite moments in the movie come from this guy, Thomas, being from California, coming to Texas, seeing things he's never seen before, like mutton busting.
Yeah.
I think my absolute favorite moment is when he's standing in an office and there's a bowl of queso there, and he is just floored by how great this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the birthing coach. Yeah. Right.
So did you consciously put those kind of things in there to show the differences between California and Texas?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of that comes from Brandon, who is from California, the director, especially the mutton busting and the queso thing. I think that was all sort of new to him. I remember when he brought that scene to when we were writing it, I was like, yeah, it's queso. I mean, everybody knows queso. Or the guy who's dipping snuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it was a fine line. We wanted to not, we didn't want to make light of either culture, L.A. or
L.A.
Texas.
doesn't come off very well in this movie.
Yeah, you're right. Screw L.A. They can have it. Yeah, you're right. Well, it's probably not that even-handed, but hopefully Texas comes out good.
Well, what's it like being a songwriter musician in Texas? I mean, did you find it was a good move for your career as well as for your family life coming back to Texas?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I've always written music and performed wherever, and although Waco is not necessarily an entertainment capital, it has been good in the sense that we did this. I just backed into this ridiculous movie, and so I don't know. I think one of the lessons we try to talk about, and not lessons, but one of the sort of themes is that when you stop fighting everything, things sort of happen the way they're supposed to happen. So that's very much been true for me in a sense of when we started working on the movie, I hadn't been doing music really at all, and now we started doing the movie sort of inspires me to play and perform more, and have more opportunities to do that. And so it's a weird sort of life imitating art, and then imitating life again. And
Yeah.
but I don't really think it matters, especially these days, and it doesn't really matter where you are as much. So, yeah,
Okay.
I'm actually glad I'm not knocking on doors in Los Angeles anymore. So
That's great. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
thank you.
All right. Wes Cunningham from Cerona. Thanks.